Morning, everyone. I'm Billy Hempler from GovCon Leaders Circle. Today we're doing another Insight interview. I'm here with Dan from V2X. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Well, let's get into it. Dan, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so accountant by trade. I describe myself as a bit of an explorer, both professionally and personally. I'm an absolute ski bum. I'm randomly on a bowling team, which is always a great kind of corporate icebreaker. I'm hoping that icebreakers in general go away, but that's my fun fact, which usually folks uh, find unique, I guess.
Sure.
But probably more importantly, husband, dad to two kids. We have a Cavalier King Charles who pretty much runs our house. So it's an exciting time around here. I try to keep a healthy perspective on things. We get a limited time here on this earth, so I try to, not get overly worked up about stuff. I try to respond calmly when things get difficult, bring some energy and optimism every day, and hopefully have a positive impact, on those around me. So yeah,
So
that's a bit
true.
about me.
Yeah, life's short, man. You gotta capitalize on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've got a Great Pyrenees, and he is a monster, and he runs.
Yep. Yep. They
He's an
run the
outside
house.
dog exclusively, but he does own the yard. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, tell us more about V2X.
Yeah. So V2X came together through the combination of Vectorus and Vertex in 2022. But behind those businesses, V2X has been supporting critical government missions for a long time, for decades. So historically, our strengths have been in areas like base and contingency operations, logistics, aviation and aerospace support, and of course, training and readiness. What's exciting today is how we're building on that foundation. So we're increasingly, bringing together people and technology to really take us to the next step. So exciting place to be. We have roughly 16,000 professionals around the world supporting, mainly defense and national security customers, but starting to increase our use of AI. I know that's a big buzzword around the industry, and using advanced technology in the work that we do. So it's a great place to be. Great place to be.
You can't escape AI. I feel like I'm talking about it every day, different
Exactly.
contexts, but literally every day I'm talking about AI.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What issues are you guys facing right now? What issues are you seeing in the industry? How are you guys dealing with them?
Yeah, there's a few things I think we're all navigating. Government contracting has always been competitive, so pricing and affordability are constantly top of mind. Especially in the services business, you're competing for highly skilled people in a very tight labor market. So it's that balance of affordability and attracting good talent that I think we continuously focus on, and I know others do as well.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's going to get to a point where services are so commoditized that the people, the interactions, the soft skills is the only distinguishing factor for every company.
Yeah,
Um, it's a constant race. I mean, I'm in the recruiting space. Yeah, very competitive right now for the top talent.
certainly. Yeah.
Well, good. Wanted to bring it back to you for a moment. So, where are you from? Texas A&M. Let's talk about that. Your first job at EY. Take it away.
Yeah. So, moved around quite a bit growing up. My family was in the oil industry, so we spent time, really all over. It's almost like being in the army, just a different situation. Spent a lot of time on the East Coast, and then eventually ended up in Houston. So I chose Texas A&M in large part because they had a 5-year accounting program where you could get an accounting degree, but then choose to do IT as your master's to sit for the CPA. So I thought that combination was fairly powerful. And I knew, at some point technology would almost, take over the accounting world, which it certainly plays a critical role. So from there, I joined EY's advisory practice in Dallas. Incredible place. Traveled the world with them, with various clients, mainly some large international banks. And then one client came along, Raytheon, and they had people stay on those accounts for a bit longer than your typical rotation as kind of a younger accounting professional. The more exposure I had to that, the more I connected just with the overall mission and eventually joined them and was there really, for about 16 years, and just had an incredible experience there. So that's how I ended up at Raytheon.
You were hooked. You had the
Yeah,
Raytheon bug. So
yeah,
you had 5 roles, 4 promotions. Tell us more about Raytheon.
yeah. Incredible place to grow up professionally. I had the opportunity to move through a number of different finance and accounting roles. Each one, I think, it taught me different things and showed me different perspectives. I think one thing Raytheon did particularly well was leadership development. There was a real emphasis on intentional rotations, and getting people outside their comfort zones, exposing them to different parts of the business. So I really enjoyed that, benefited tremendously from that model. Learned the technical side of the accounting house, but probably more importantly, learned how to lead large teams, and work with the businesses in a pretty complex environment. So, fantastic place. It was a good place to learn for sure.
So if someone was 3 years old when you started, they were graduating high school and you were leaving.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. That's good. Solid tenure. All right. So eventually, something else came up, as it always does. You grow and you find greener pastures. Blue Halo came up. Tell us about how that came up.
Yeah, very randomly. I think everyone gets the calls from the recruiters, from the Billies of the world.
Sure. Yeah.
I connected with one through a friend and ended up meeting Robert Richards, Blue Halo's CFO. Immediately connected with him. He was a fantastic leader, is a fantastic leader. Um, Great culture at Blue Halo, tremendous amount of energy. I could see what they were trying to build, and I think the opportunity to help a growing private company, sort of uplift and move to the public company reporting and accounting organization that's needed was very appealing. That meant uplifting the financials, processes, controls, and most importantly, the team. So we were essentially building public company readiness while the company continued to grow very quickly. So, very fun place. It was a whirlwind, but probably one of the best experiences of my career. So while we were prepping for an IPO, Air Environment came in and acquired Blue Halo. And then after that transaction, had the opportunity to come to V2X, which has been exciting ever since that transaction concluded and came over.
Yeah. A lot of really cool people from Blue Halo.
Yeah,
So shout out to Rob Richards there. That's great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I imagine you keep in touch with some other folks from that. All right, so you wrap up at Blue Halo, you land at V2X, now you're here. How did you make the step? You did it just recently from director to C-suite.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's a combination of sort of that technical credibility, but I would say mainly leadership. I've always cared about what I call, old school accounting and that balance sheet integrity. That's how I was sort of raised at Raytheon. But as you become a leader, you realize your impact isn't really measured by what you personally know. It's measured by that team around you, which I know sounds a little cliche. But culture is a huge deal to me. I want an energetic, collaborative environment where, people have each other's back. Nobody cares who gets the credit, and where people aren't afraid to walk in and say, "Hey, we have a problem." So if you can achieve those things, I think that really helped me focus on becoming, leader of the entire team instead of just pieces of it. And there's a few non-negotiables. We talk all the time as a team about acting with integrity. We're going to get the right answer, regardless of the P&L implications, right? We're going to create an environment where folks are not afraid to raise their hand. And again, focus on getting the right answer all the time. And so I think as the team talks about that and sees that, it creates a very good, I'd say, healthy environment to work in.
Yeah, totally. That's all. I mean, all solid stuff. Um, one thing as you were speaking, I was thinking about you leave college and you're like, all right, I'm here. I want to get there. And it feels like that's on the other side of my career. And, for me, and I'm sure for you, for others, it feels like just yesterday when we left college.
It definitely does.
So
Yeah.
eventually it comes. It's just baby steps along the way.
Yeah. 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 It definitely does. Even looking back to internship days, it's hard to imagine yourself, 20, 30 years later down the road, where do you want to be? And I've tried to focus on sort of enjoying the ride and continuously learning. Again, I know that sounds a little cliche, but it keeps you interested, keeps you invested,
Yeah.
and it keeps you growing.
Well, that's a good segue into the next question. So, what's been your biggest personal growth since becoming CAO?
Yeah, I think in general, just broadening my technical range, not necessarily on the accounting side, but tax is probably the best example. you know, Earlier in my career, I would work in organizations with very large specialized tax teams, like Raytheon, huge tax team, lots of outside support. So I benefited from that and never really had to think about it or worry about it, right? It just took care of itself. So I'm a product of kind of a bigger organization. So, but now as CAO, I've had to develop a much deeper understanding of tax and understand how all the pieces fit together, where our risk areas are, how we mitigate those. So I've had to take much deeper dives into areas where, again, I sort of benefited from a large enterprise just kind of running on its own. But I think more broadly, this role has taught me that you don't necessarily need to be the deepest expert on every topic. You need to have a good team. You need to know when to ask the right questions and challenge assumptions. So that's probably been one of the bigger areas where, you have to be comfortable. You're not going to know everything to the nth degree, like tax as an example, but you have to be not only dangerous but capable of making sure we're steering the ship in the right direction.
Yeah. So, two things I pulled from that. So, it's either not worth it or impossible if you don't have a good team.
Exactly.
Yeah. And more specific to yourself, yeah, no one's asking you to boil the ocean. You just
Yeah,
have to be able to know a little bit about a lot of things, and that's what makes a good quarterback.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. All right, so a lot of our audience wants to know, how do they get to that next level? Do you have any advice for them? Someone who wants to become a specifically CAO or just in general, take it to director and then executive.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this with just the team culture, but Nick Saban gave a speech one time, so credit to him. He talked about three elements of character that he wanted in his teams and that he tried to exhibit himself. And I think it plays in, especially in the accounting world and the financial world where integrity is everything. But those three things, starting with integrity, that comes first. Particularly in accounting, again, you have to pursue the right answer regardless of the outcome. There's certainly some gray area from time to time, but your credibility takes years to build and can disappear very quickly, as we saw recently in some of the news this week. Um, but secondly, actually care about people, help develop them, I think they immediately see through leaders that don't care. Give them opportunities, advocate for them when they're not in the room. And over a long period of time, that definitely wins. And I want everyone on the team doing that with their peers and subordinates as well. Um, and I think third is work ethic and just attitude. I tell people coming straight out of school all the time, we can teach you accounting and the systems and the processes, but what is much harder to teach is that curiosity and the effort and how you treat people. So in summary, that integrity, actually caring, and the work ethic is a big deal to me. And if you get those three right,
Yeah.
I think you've got a ton of opportunity at that executive level.
Yeah. The soft skills, going back to it, I mentioned it earlier. You can't teach drive. You can't teach hustle. It's really hard to replace that. Like you said, you can teach someone the accounting pieces.
Yeah.
I can't teach you to show up on time, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. All
Um,
the all the free things you see on LinkedIn, right?
yeah,
Again, they're cliche, but there's a lot of truth and some things you can do just as a person, being a good person,
yeah.
that really have a big impact.
That makes up more than half in some
Yeah.
cases for a job. I mean, you could be brilliant and not have
Yeah.
all of those, like you said, free things, and you'll struggle. Good. Well, I want to leave some time to bring it back to the industry and kind of get your take here. So, what would you like to see in the industry in the remainder of this year, next year? What's on the horizon? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I think technology is probably what excites me most. I know it's all over the news, especially with the AI push. But A&D has historically been responsible for some incredible advances, and I think we're entering a period where AI, advanced analytics, and other technologies can really change how we operate. And from my finance perspective, I'm particularly interested in how we use those technologies, not just in solutions, but internally within our own business, how we make better decisions. There's certainly an efficiency play. How do we automate routine work, identify risks, right? There's a lot of opportunity. I think in a lot of cases, just talking to peers, just getting your data in a good spot, right? That where you can trust it and use it in a powerful way, is certainly a big push. I'd love to see some of that innovation, coming out of A&D and finding applications beyond our industry. There's a long history of that happening, and I think it's fun to continue to see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, there's already been so much in the last 18 months. Crazy. It'll be crazy to see what happens in the next couple of years here. Well,
Yeah.
good. Last couple minutes. Any closing thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, I mean, look, I really appreciate the conversation. I've been fortunate throughout my career to work with some incredible people and organizations. Genuinely excited about what we're building here at V2X. Great mission, strong team. But it for me personally, it's getting to do all this while helping kind of that next generation of leaders. I think we're leaving a legacy both at work and outside of work. And again, just try to approach that with a positive attitude and perspective. So, no, really appreciate the time.
Yeah. No. Hey, positive attitude, good perspective changes a lot for you. That's what life is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Dan, thank you
absolutely.
so much. Thanks for joining us today. If
Yeah,
you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Follow us on GovCon Leader Circle and Insight Interviews. Till next time. Thanks, Dan.
thanks. We'll see you.